Welcome back, students. Today we are going to discuss excretory system topic, which belong to Unit 6 of our course. Okay. So before I start the main content, I would like to inform that the images used in our slides are for education purpose only. We respect intellectual property right of the original creator and owner of these images. If you are the owner of any of the images used in this PPT, have any concern, any issue, please contact us at Sathi @ of iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the images. In this particular video lecture, we are going to discuss these points: excretion and osmoregulation, ammonotelism, ureotelism, uricotelism, excretion of water and urine with special reference to man, role of kidney in the regulation of plasma, osmolarity on the basis of nephron structure, and skin and lung in excretion. So these are the points which we are going to discuss in today's video lecture. So first of all, we have to understand what is excretory system. Okay. So excretory system contains group of organs which actually help in eliminating different kind of waste from our body. Okay. So it is a group of organs which help to eliminate the waste product from our body. Various kind of waste product are formed in various organisms, but it actually depends upon their habitat, their type of diet. Okay, but overall that waste usually contains nitrogenous waste. That waste are usually nitrogenous waste. Okay, so based on the nature of the excretory product, we can classify different type of animals into three different category. First type belong to ammonotelic, then ureotelic, and the last one is uricotelic. Okay, one by one, let's discuss all these three terms. So first one is ammonotelic. Ammonotelic is the way some organisms get rid of waste in the form of ammonia. So all those kind of animals which actually remove ammonia as a their waste product considered under ammonotelic category. Certain kind of fish, all the fishes, all the aquatic animals like amphibia and some insects are comes under this ammonotelic organism category. As this ammonia, it is a type of gas, right? And this ammonia dissolve very easily in water, so it can leave the body through diffusion across the body surface or through gills. Okay, and it is highly soluble in water. So in these type of animal, kidney are not important for removing ammonia, so they just reduce or thus just transfer ammonia or as a waste product through their body surface or gills. And these are the type of organisms which are having this type of excretory based product, means ammonia as a excretory based product, fishes and aquatic amphibians and some kind of insects. Clear? Second type comes under ureoteric category, in which mammals, as you can see over here, elephant, dog, whale also, some amphibians and even some fishes which comes under this mammals category, they get rid of this urea as a waste and they are collectively, we can use the term ureotelic for the same. Okay, but mainly all those animal which actually normally live in on the land area, they actually require comparatively less toxic waste product, and urea and uric acid are better choices than ammonia. Ammonia is very highly toxic. Okay, but ammonia is present as a waste product in only those animal which whose habitat are water or water related, pond, lake, or water animals, we can say, fishes mainly. But all those animal we who usually found in the land area, they require less toxic waste product. So um, their liver, means mammal's liver, convert this ammonia into the urea, which travel the blood to the kidney, and from kidney actually filter the that blood and pass out urea, filter it, this urea, and then release it from the body. Okay, so kidney filter the urea and release it, while potentially keeping some for water balance point of view. Third type of category comes under uricotelic animals. Uricotelic means certain kind of animals, like as you can see in this picture, certain kind of birds, reptiles, they comes under uricotelic category. So reptiles, birds, land snails, insects, they are classified as a uricotelic animal. They excrete nitrogenous waste as uric acid. Okay, which convert their nitrogenous waste into the uric acid pellet form or in a paste form. This efficient process actually minimize their water loss. Just to minimize their water loss, they convert their nitrogenous waste into uric acid. Okay, so ammonia highly dissolved in water, then followed by urea, and then minimum water loss with the help of uric acid. Okay, now let's discuss some all the organisms belong to the animal category, animal kingdom, who exhibit different kind of excretory structure, like flame cells. These flame cells or protonephridia are found in certain kind of platyhelminthes like flatworms, annelids, rotifers. Okay, they are having protonephridia as a excretory organ. What is the function? Just primarily this protonephridia, as you can see, this is the structure of protonephridia or frame cells. They are involved in ionic and fluid volume regulation, means osmoregulation. Clear? Second type, nephridia. This nephridia is comes under as a excretory organ, excretory structure comes under this annelida category, or in which earthworms are the main organism. So nephridium. Okay, what is the role? Just removal of nitrogenous waste product and maintain fluid or and ionic balance inside the body of organisms belong to this annelid category. Third type is Malpighian tubules. Malpighian tubules are the excretory structure which are found in the insects, like in cockroaches. What is the excretory structure present in the cockroach? Malpighian tubules. What is the function? Simple, removal of nitrogenous waste and also contribute in the osmoregulation. This is the structure of Malpighian tubules. Fourth type, green glands or antennal glands. Okay, these green glands or antennal glands are found in the crustaceans like prawns to perform their excretory function, means removal of nitrogenous waste. Now let's discuss the main excretory system which are present in our course, the human excretory system. Okay, so human excretory system comprises a pair of kidney. As you can see, one kidney is present over here, one kidney is present over here, left and right. Two kidneys or one pair of kidney, and each kidney is attached with one ureter. So one pair of ureter, one urinary bladder, okay, and a urethra. So this is the all the parts of human excretory system. Okay, so human excretory system have a pair of kidney, a pair of ureter, one urinary bladder, and urethra. Clear? Now, our kidney actually looks like bean shaped and it is reddish brown in color. It is situated in the last thoracic, means T12 and L3 vertebrae, between last thoracic and third lumbar vertebrae, and it is close to the dorsal inner wall of our abdominal cavity. Clear? So, dorsal inner wall of the abdominal cavity. Each adult human kidney length, approximately length, is about 10 to 12 centimeter, width about 5 to 7 centimeter, thickness is about 2 to 3 centimeter, and the weight about 120 to 170 grams. So this is overall measurement of our kidney. Reddish brown in color, bean shaped, present between last thoracic and third lumbar in the dorsal side of our abdominal cavity, and other measurements are as just now we have discussed. Now let's discuss the kidney structure. As you can say, the inner concave surface of the kidney. This is the inner concave surface. This is the convex surface. So this inner surface is in concave shape, right? And this inner concave shape or surface have a notch-like structure. This notch-like structure, and this notch-like structure is known as hilum. What we call it? Hilum. Through which various type of ureter, this one is ureter, renal vein, renal nerves, renal artery, all these things, nerve vessels, actually enter into the inside the kidney through hilum, and this is a notch-like structure. Okay, so this is present in the inner concave surface. Okay, inner to the hilum there is a broad funnel-like structure like this. This is a funnel-like structure. This whole funnel-like structure. This funnel-like structure is known as renal pelvis. What we call it? Renal pelvis. This is a funnel-like structure. This is known as renal pelvis. Correct? Renal pelvis, this funnel-like structure. And there is a broad, which contains certain kind of projections. These are the projections. Finger-like structure. This renal pelvis contains certain kind of projections which is known as calyxes. This is known as calyxes. This one is the broad one. We can use the term major calyx. And again, subdivision is there, as you can see over here. This subdivision is known as minor calyx. Clear? So notch-like structure, hilum, present in the on the inner concave surface side. Then there is a funnel-like structure known as renal pelvis. And this renal pelvis have certain kind of finger-like of projections, which is known as calyx, major and minor calyx. We can further divide it according to their branches. There is a outer surface. This is the outer surface or outer layer of kidney is known as, it is comparatively tough, and this is known as capsule. Outer surface. Clear? So this is overall structure of kidney. And in this kidney, there is a certain kind of, uh, other structures are also there. Again, we can use the term certain projections, funnel-like structures. This is known as renal medulla. If we can divide this kidney, then there is a two type of division. The outer surface which is present towards the convex side, this is known as cortex region, renal cortex region, outer side which is present on the outer side, while inner side region is known as medulla region. Okay, medulla region. And in this projections, we can further divide it into the according to the their location. Okay, outer side which is present towards the concave side, and outer side region is known as renal cortex. Inner side region is, we can use the term medulla region. Clear? Now, okay, already I have mentioned this over here that inside the kidney there are two main zone: outer cortex and inner medulla. Okay, medulla is further divided into conical type of masses. That type of structure is present na medulla. This type of structure, conical type of masses. These are known as medullary pyramids, which actually projects into the calyxes. Clear? The cortex extend between the medullary pyramids are known as renal column, or we can use the term column of Bertini for the same. So what is the location of column of Bertini? This is the location of column of Bertini. There is a projection which is present, cortex region which is projected towards the medullary region. This is known as column of Bertini. Clear? So this portion is known as column of Bertini. This conical flask-like structure, renal medulla. Okay, so that's why it is written over here. The cortex extended between the medullary pyramids. Okay, as renal columns, also known as column of Bertini. Clear? Now, let's discuss the functional unit of kidney. What is the functional unit of kidney? It is known as nephron. Okay, so each kidney contains nearly 1 million complex tubular structure called as nephron. Now, let's discuss the structure of nephron. Nephron contains some different parts. First part is known as glomerulus. First part. It where tuft of capillary formed by the afferent arterioles. Okay. Then second part, renal tubule. This renal tubule begin with the Bowman's capsule and enclosing the glomerulus and continue as the PCT, or we can use a term proximal convoluted tubule, then Henle's loop, and further distal convoluted tubule. Now let's discuss this by using this diagram. Okay, so this area is known as Bowman's capsule. Okay, this is known as Bowman's capsule. This purple color region is known as PCT. PCT. This is followed by a loop-like structure which is known as descending loop of Henle. This whole pin-shaped structure is known as loop of Henle. This one is descending loop and this one is ascending loop of Henle's. Ascending loop of Henle's. This is further connected to the DCT, distal convoluted tubule, DCT. Okay, and then this DCT finally joined with the collecting tube. Okay, and this is the cortex region and this one is the medulla region. So if you can see, then if we can divide it approximately, then maximum part of PCT, Bowman's capsule and DCT is present in the cortex region. While in the medullary region, most of the loop of Henle's part are present. While this collecting tube will start from the cortex and then come towards the medullary side. So it is Actually, it is common. Collective tube collect urine from the this nephron unit also and from this nephron unit also. So this one is not belong to any one nephron. Okay, but it is common between so many nephrons, and it is also present from cortex side towards the medullary side. Clear? Okay. So, combination of this glomerulus and woman's capsule, this reason. Glomerulus and woman's capsule, collectively we can use the term Malpighian corpuscles for the same. Okay. So, this Malpighian corpuscles, PCT, Morphigian corpuscles, PCT and DCT, these are present in the cortical region. Just now we have discussed this. While this loop of Henle, this loop of Henle is present in the medullary region and this form the juxtamedullary nephron. Clear? So, what is the function of nephron? This nephron, which is the functional unit of kidney, it actually regulates the fluid balance inside the body, electrolyte, and it is mainly involved in the waste elimination and also involved in the maintaining homeostasis inside our body. Okay, clear? Now structure is clear. Now let's move to the next slide. How urine formation occur. So urine formation involved three different steps. First is glomerular filtration, then reabsorption of water and other important ions, then secretion of the waste product. Okay, so first is glomerular filtration. So approximately per minute 1100 to 1200 ml of blood filtered per minute. Means if you calculate it into 60 into 24, then 180 liter of blood filter out daily on the daily basis. Okay, and filtration done through three different layers. Okay, first layer, the endothelium layer of glomerulus blood vessel, then epithelium layer of Bowman's capsule. First layer, blood vessel layer. Blood is that blood is present inside the vessel. So first, that blood must cross its own wall, right? So endothelial wall of the blood vessel. Second, the wall which is present on the outer surface of Bowman's capsule, that is epithelium, and the basement membrane which is present between these two membrane. So third layer. So filtration done through three layers. First, endothelium of glomerular blood vessel. Second, epithelium of Bowman's capsule, and third, basement membrane which is present between this endothelium and epithelium. Okay, and there is a very minute space is present between epithelial cell of Bowman's capsule, and because this epithelium layer of Bowman's capsule have certain podo or podocyst like pseudopodia like structure which is known as podocyte, and that's why because of the creation this type of structure this type of structure there is a certain slits type of structure is present in between. There is a in between layer. I just draw the line, and this is the blood vessel in which blood. So this is blood vessel. So this is the endothelium layer. Endothelium layer. Then this is the basement membrane, and this is the epithelium layer of Bowman's capsule. So first, this blood must cross this endothelium, then this basement membrane, and then through this podocyte using slit, it just enter into the uh, next site. Okay, so it has to pass, that blood has to pass three different layer, and this is how this filtration slit has been developed because of the presence of this podocytes. This is known as podocytes. Okay, and this now we can use a term, the slit present over here, filtration slit or slit pore. Okay, clear? And only protein can pass on the lumen of the woman's capsule. Therefore, only protein, no other kind of cell, no blood cell, nothing. That therefore we can consider it as a process of ultrafiltration. Only protein can pass from blood, no RBC, no WBC, no platelet. Only protein can pass apart from the water also. But apart from water and some glucose and other some ionic some ions, only protein can pass this lumen of woman's capsule. That's why we can use the term ultrafiltration for the same. Now, yes, so three layer. First layer of this blood vessel first, then this white layer which is known as basement membrane, and this third, this yellow one, which are having podocytes and slits are there. So three layers. Okay, now clear. So this is the afferent artery, which is comparatively bigger, and this is the efferent arteriole, which is comparatively thinner. So there is a that blood flow, volume of blood come towards the Bowman's capsule is more, while ejected one, the volume of the blood which is passed from this efferent artery is less. So there must be a pressure created in this particular zone, glomerulus capillaries, because this afferent arterioles further divided into various capillaries. So because there is a change in volume type, so there must be a pressure created. So this is how important components, water and other some proteins, water and other ions has been filtered out and come towards the woman's capsule. Okay, so second is, so first step filtration, second is reabsorption. In reabsorption, nearly 99% of the filtrate is reabsorbed by the renal tubules, 99%, in which glucose, amino acids. So here, glucose, amino acids, sodium ion, okay, water, okay, these things are reabsorbed actively. Okay, but so all those things which are important for us, which our body don't want to lose, like glucose, amino acids, sodium ion, these are reabsorbed actively, but the nitrogenous waste are absorbed by passively. So, and but this water is reabsorbed passively in initial segment of the nephron. Clear? Okay. Now, secretion. In secretion, the tubular cells secrete some important substance, some important ions like hydrogen ion, potassium ion, and ammonia. And this secretion is an important step in urine formation, as it helps in the maintaining ionic and acidic acid-base balance in our body fluid. Okay. So now let's discuss at which particular location, which type of electrolyte or which type of molecule is reabsorbed by the body. So first of all, what is the first area? That is PCT. Just after Bowman's capsule, PCT. So what is the primary function of PCT? Is to reabsorb important molecules like glucose like polypeptide and amino acids via active media. And this PCT is lined by simple cubical epithelium. Okay. And it is in this particular part, some important electrolytes and especially this sodium ion and all plasma proteins are reabsorbed. Okay. And in this particular part, 60 to 65% of water from the tubular fluid is also reabsorbed into the blood along with the some bicarbonate ions. Okay. In Henle's loop, in Henle's loop of Henle, reabsorption in this segment is minimum, but this particular loop play a significant role in maintaining high osmolarity. Osmolarity, just to maintain high osmolarity, as the filtrate concentration concentrate as this that filtrate move down in the descending link of the loop of Henle, like this is the loop of Henle as it move down towards the lower side. Okay, and this is the ascending limb. This is the ascending limb and this is the descending limb. Okay, as it move down, then immediately this particular loop is permeable to water. So water is reabsorbed. Water is going to reabsorb from this region, but not electrolyte. Not electrolyte. As the filtrate get dilute, as it pass towards the upward side, because ascending limb is impermeable to the water, but allow transportation of electrolyte. So at this particular region, only sodium ion is allowed to reabsorb, not water. Okay. So this will happen in the Henle's loop. As you can see in this particular picture, this PCT region, okay, DCT region, okay, and this all are present in the cortex region, while this Henle's loop is present in the medullary region, right? And this is the glomerulus region. And in the PCT region, all the important are things like glucose, amino acid, bicarbonate ions, water. Okay, 85% type water, 60 to 40 to 60% of sodium and potassium ions are reabsorbed by this PCT region. While in the descending limb of loop of Henle, only water, maximum water is allowed to reabsorb. While in the ascending limb, no water, only ions, mainly magnesium, calcium, and sodium ion, maximum allowed to reabsorb, but no water. Water is allowed to reabsorb only in this particular region. Okay, so here concentration of sodium ion will increase continuously, while in this particular region, concentration of sodium ion is comparatively less, while here more concentration. So obviously osmolarity in this particular region is comparatively high because more amount of electrolyte is absorbed over here in this ascending limb, and also in the DCT region, sodium ion absorption, calcium ion absorption occur. Okay, under the influence, in fact, in DCT region, under the influence of certain hormones like aldosterone, antidiuretic hormone. Okay, so while under the influence of aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone, reabsorption of water occur in distal region and in this collective duct region. So overall, what do you understand? In the PCT region, mainly bicarbonate ion, all the essential organic components like glucose, amino acid, water, all these things are reabsorbed. In descending link of loop of Henle, water, mainly water, some amount of some certain kind of ion, but in ascending limb of loop of Henle, only certain kind of ion is allowed to reabsorb. Clear? Okay, now in DCT, just now we have discussed it. In DCT, conditional reabsorption of sodium ion and water occur in DCT region, and this particular region is capable to reabsorb bicarbonate ion, and this particular region is mainly involved to maintain pH and sodium potassium balance by just secreting hydrogen potassium ion in this particular region. As sodium is absorbed, then secretion of hydrogen potassium ion occur in this particular region. In collective duct, which is extended from the cortex to the medulla region, we have discussed this point earlier also. Large amount of water could be reabsorbed here. Just now we have seen this. And as large amount of water is reabsorbed, so it will concentrate the urine. And this collecting duct allow passage of a small amount of urea to keep up the osmolarity. Secretion of hydrogen ion, secretion of potassium ion actually maintain the ionic and pH of our urine. Now let's discuss role of hormone. Just now we have discussed the role of hormone. Now I'll describe what is the role of hormone. As you know, the excessive fluid loss activates our receptors, leading to the release of antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin from the hypothalamus. Okay, this one is released at the DCT area, at the collective duct area. So this ADH or antidiuretic hormone actually facilitate water reabsorption in the tubules to prevent excess diuresis. Okay, so this antidiuretic hormone also also actually constrict the blood vessel, which increase blood pressure and glomerular blood flow. Okay, and two other hormones, renin and angiotensin, are also involved. Like renin and angiotensin system actually drop the blood pressure. How? Just to drop the blood pressure, just to drop the blood volume. Okay, as renin is released from the kidney and angiotensin is released from the liver, and in the presence of renin, this will renin react with the angiotensinogen and convert it into the angiotensin 1. Immediately, this time from the lungs, another enzyme which is known as angiotensin converting enzyme, ACE enzyme, it is released from the lung. It will convert this angiotensin 1 into the angiotensin 2. And now this angiotensin 2 works in two different ways. This angiotensin 2 directly act on the blood vessel and stimulate vasoconstriction, narrowing the blood vessel. Okay, and this also stimulate adrenal gland to release aldosterone hormone, and immediately this aldosterone hormone act on the kidney to stimulate reabsorption of NaCl and water. So this is how it will reduce the volume of urine by reabsorbing essential ions and water. So this is how all the hormone works. Another factor which is known as atrial nucleuric factor, it increase blood flow from the atria of the our heart, and it trigger the release of ANF. This ANF actually cause vasodilation. It expand the blood vessel, and this is how it will reduce the blood pressure. This ANF act as a check on the renin angiotensin mechanism also. Now let's discuss some other organ which are also involved the excretion of various kind of waste from our body. First one is lung. Lung actually responsible for the removal of carbon dioxide from our body. Our lungs expel about 18 liter of carbon dioxide per day. Our lung also removes significant amount of water vapor, which is a byproduct of cellular respiration. Okay, so lung is also involved in excretion activity. Similarly, liver is also involved. Liver is our body's largest gland, and it is mainly involved in the secretion of bile juice, and this bile juice contains certain elements, certain salt as a bilirubin and biliverdin and cholesterol. Okay, so it contains these kind of waste products and metabolize certain kind of steroid hormones, certain kind of vitamins and drugs also. So these are eventually secreted along with the digestive waste. All the waste which is generated by or produced by liver, this is excreted via with the digestive waste. Third one is the sweat gland, which is present in our skin. Sweat gland and sebaceous glands. These sweat gland and sebaceous gland produce watery fluid which contain NaCl, a small amount of urea, a small amount of lactic acid as well. Okay. Primary function of sweating is to facilitate the cooling effect of our body, but it also help in the removal of certain kind of waste from our body like NaCl, urea, lactic acid. Sebaceous glands. Sebaceous gland actually help to remove certain kind of steroids, some hydrocarbons and wax through serum from our body. Okay, so this secretion provide a protective oily layer covering for our skin. Now let's discuss some disorder which is related to excretory system like uremia. Uremia means malfunctioning of kidney. It can lead to the accumulation of urea in the blood, resulting a condition known as uremia. This uremia is highly harmful and it may lead to kidney failure. Hemodialysis is another thing, and it is a process for the removal of urea, blood urea via mechanical way through dialysis process. Second is kidney transplantation. This is the ultimate method for correcting acute renal failure or kidney failure. A functional kidney is transplanted from the donor preferred by the close relative so that there is minimum probability for the rejection, and this minimize before the transplantation process, doctor first check out so many parameters of the body's immune system just to avoid the rejection. Okay, modern clinical process have increased the success rate of kidney transplantation also. So this is all about which related to the today's topic, excretory system. I hope most of the things has been cleared now. Still you have any question related to today's video lecture, please let me know. We will discuss it later on. Till then, take care, bye bye, and keep learning. Namaskar.